Okay. Our speaker today is Stephen Stokes. Stephen is the owner of Event Inc., a Colorado-based event planning company, and he is also the program director of the Event Management Certification Program at Arapahoe Community College in Littleton, Colorado. He has over 15 years of event planning experience and has planned well over 300 events in 125 cities and 9 countries. His past experience includes the Winter Paralympic Games in Salt Lake City, and he has been a regular speaker at the U.S. Paralympic Amazing Leaders Conference. It is my pleasure on behalf of U.S. Paralympics and Blazesports America to welcome Stephen Stokes as our speaker today.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for getting me online, and it's nice to see everyone here today. Over the course of the next hour, I look forward to sharing with you a few tips and tricks about fundraising in any economy. The presentation objectives for today are to use the current economy to your advantage, and that is possible. Learn the 5 tenets of fundraising, learn the difference between intent and strategy, and develop your own fundraising strategy. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. I'm not sure how many of you have maybe seen me before at different presentations or conferences. I've also done some work with Disabled Sports USA. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my knowledge and hopefully help you develop and grow your organization. I chock this full of hopefully a lot of information that will be helpful for you, and please do use the question area and the chat area to pose additional questions. I'd love to be able to answer those at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and just get started now. And I just have to say, I was telling Jeff earlier, it's a little bit unique to be talking to the number of people online and not be able to see you or hear your laughter or that sort of thing. I love people, and getting a chance to feel your energy is important to me. And not knowing that I can do that, I'm just going to know that you're out there and hopefully enjoying what I'm having to say. So thank you again for taking time out of your busy lives and busy days to be on this presentation. And again, I'm really excited to support and help you in whatever way I can. So let's go ahead and get started. I got a coin from a friend not too long ago, and instead of it having a heads and tails, on one side it said success, and on the flip side it said failure. And there's something about the current economy to say, is this going to be the time when your organization loses money? Or is this going to be the time when your organization raises money, grows as an organization, finds new donors, finds new ways to be innovative and be excited? And you really, as leaders of your organization, the development people or volunteers, have that opportunity now. I own my own business, and really for a little bit earlier in this year, for about 4 months, my business partner and I, we really focused on the downturn in the economy. That's what we talked about. That's what we shared in the community. And I would say we were looking at the failure side of the coin. And interestingly enough, at that same time, our business had the worst 4 months of its the entire time we've been open, a little over 3 years. And in February, we were talking to a business coach. She said, why don't you focus on a few different things? And we started a new strategy of just looking at success and how can we build, how can we really create something new. And we said, this is going to be the year for our business. How are we going to grow? And I don't think there are that many differences between nonprofit and for-profit organizations. We all are out there to make money for the things that we want to do in life and help people grow. And interestingly, when we started in February, it did take us a few months, but just 2 months later in May, or 3 months later in May, we had the start of what's been the best 6 months of our business the entire time we've been open. We almost doubled our revenues in that 3rd month and have had a consistent amount of revenue in the months following that. So I think it's just a time to look and say, am I going to fall to what people are saying the economy is, or am I going to make a difference? And so today is really about making a difference in your organization and not getting down on the economy. I know that they're saying the economy is coming back, and I never believed it went anywhere. There's always enough to go around. It's just where you focus your energy. So my encouragement is for us to focus ourselves on success. Really, the economy, as we know, works in cycles, and so now it's a little bit the time to weed our financial gardens, to focus on strengths in your current fundraising plan, and to remove programs that aren't working or aren't working as well as you want them to. Typically, organizations spend 80% of their time finding new donors. In the current economy, the suggestion is, and my suggestion to you is, move your focus to spending 80% of your time on your existing donors. It takes about 5 times as long to find a new donor because you have to wade through the number of people that are out there that have no interest in your programs. You need to find people who are interested. You need to explain to them what your programs do, and I know that you've all been through that process. If you take the time now when fundraising is a bit more challenging and you assume that 20% of your donors provide 75% of your income, and of course, every organization on the phone might have a little bit different statistics in mind. But if you assume that 20% of your donors provide 75% of your income, let's look to designing a plan to spend 80% of your time with those 20%. A lot of times people will go out and say, well, now is the time. I don't have enough money coming in. I'm going to go out and I'm going to really try to rustle the bushes for new people. My suggestion to you is to instead focus 80% of your time on that 20% of your donor base. And I know, and I wrote down a note for myself at the beginning, that there might be people on the phone who they're one person and they have 10 donors. So am I saying focus 80% of your time on those 2 donors? Maybe you have to expand it a little bit. Maybe it's a 3 or 4, or maybe you take those top 10 and you say, those are my 20 that I'm going to make special, and I'm going to really use them to develop the next bit of information. But for those organizations out there that have 1,000 donors or more, you can really take that 20% and use this in that same way. So I'm really saying this is true for everybody who's on the webinar today. No matter where you are in your organization, you can grow your organization to the next level using these ideas. So the first thing is what you want to do is make your donors feel special. If you just took a few minutes, I've written down a few things here. You could say you have 200 donors, that 1,000 donor organization. Take your 200 donors and bring in 10 volunteers to call on each of those 200 donors and say, thank you so much for donating money. This is how we're using it. We're really excited about this new program. And then don't make an ask. There's an expectation that you'll make an ask, but really you want to make them feel special and not have them feel like each time you're calling or each time you're connecting that's about a solicitation. So a personal phone call of thanks. In a smaller organization, that could be you spending a half a day on the phone making phone calls. Perhaps you develop an extra newsletter that will go to your top donors, and to that list you focus on 1 or 2 donors that have done some special tasks. Perhaps you're keeping in touch with your top donors and you're recognizing business that you regularly receive money from, and they've been listed in the newspaper recently. And you highlight in the newsletter that, and you make them feel special. Perhaps you have an invitation to go to an event with you, or you have a separate networking session for your top 20. You could even develop a special club for your top 20. You want to make it some sort of a name that makes them feel unique and special, but doesn't discourage your other donors from donating. But you could have some special organization. You could have a special fundraiser during the year for your top 20. You could invite a group of them to a brown bag networking luncheon, and you could say, this is where our organization is, and this is where we want to grow. How do you see, from your experience in your business or personal life, that we might grow our organization? It's just an opportunity to find out also a little bit about them. It may be that you're asking about your organization, but if you're bringing them together in this networking lunch, you're saying, what do you need help with? How can I support you? What's your big initiative? And there's a slide about that in just a few minutes as well. So this can be in your donor database. Let's just talk about your donor database for a minute. So the typical information in a donor database: name, address, phone, email, website, potentially the amount of money that they've given in the past, the ways they've given, the events they've given money at, have they been a sponsor at a previous event, did they donate money at a holiday program, whatever those things are. My suggestion here is to add in more information about your donors so that you can be with that. You could do this across the whole thing, across your whole donor database. But my suggestion is specifically focus on that top 20% and say, what do I know about my donors' lifestyles? Where do they eat? Where do they vacation? Where do they play? What type of hobbies do they do? Special achievements? Do they have a favorite sport team? Do you know any information about their family? This is specifically interesting when you are getting, donors from a personal donor versus a corporate donor. But interacting with your donors regarding what you know about them, not exactly what you need from them. We often go to our donors saying, I need X amount of money, or I need X amount of equipment. But this could be a survey that you do, or it could be in that phone conversation, you could ask just a few questions. You don't need to collect all of these pieces about all of those organizations, but it's nice to be able to create a closer relationship with your donors than the typical email to them or the typical mass email or mass newsletter. I'll just give an example. Jeff Jones, while not a donor to my organization necessarily, at the beginning of the thing, I knew that he'd gone on a fishing trip. And it was nice for us to chat before we started talking business just about his fishing trip and the unseasonably warm weather we're having and all of that. We live in different parts of the country, but that quick conversation, it breaks the ice and makes things easier. And I want Jeff to know that I'm interested in him, just as I want my donors of the organizations I work with to know that I'm interested in where they are in life. So if you are doing a survey or you're having people on the phone, I saw a speaker do this. I'm actually taking this from Brendan Bouchard. He wrote a book called Life's Golden Ticket. And in a seminar I took from him, he said, you want to ask the following questions. And by the way, Life's Golden Ticket is a parable, and it's a wonderful, wonderful book about really finding your life's purpose. And I would highly recommend it for those on the call. But ask the following questions to your donors. What do they do? What do they know? Oftentimes we ask a donor to, maybe they've contributed in the past financially, but they might also be the local printer in town, and you need printing done for your next brochure. Could they offer printing in the future? What do they know? Are they a master? Maybe they've been a coach, and you need a coach to add into your volunteer area in the future. Who do they do business with? Who do they know? They basically, it's to say, what is their influence to connect with others? It might be that you have already asked them and they've given the donation that they can provide for the year. But instead you're saying, what influence might I provide, or what influence might they be able to provide for future donors? And what can you provide to them? And the next slide will deal with this a little bit more. The next question, what do they need to double their business if they're a business owner? Oftentimes businesses might need exposure. That might need connection. They might need just a phone number. They might need somebody for your relationship database. And each of us has a relationship database of anywhere. It says there's a statistic out there of 250 people. And I think with social media that number is climbing. If you are staying in regular contact with people, it may be that 250 number. So if you have 10 people on your board or in your relationship database, you're talking to 100 donors, that's giving you access to, I have to do the math a little bit really quick, that's giving you access to 25,000 people that may be able to help or support your organization. And you're asking what do they need to double their business. It's easy to start looking back, and I did it myself, to say, what am I going to need? But your question to them is, what do they need to double their business? And it may not be that you can help them sell more widgets, but the reality is if they say they need contact with a certain socialite, a certain business owner, a certain whatnot, you may actually already have that in your relationship database. You might already have those people, those connections there. And once you connect them to one person, they're going to be more likely to come back and help you. And so the idea is really helping your neighbor as you might help yourself. You've heard that before. The last question, what can I give to you? And it's saying if they need something to double their business, then do you have something that you can do to help them double their business? So inside of the what can I give question, as a nonprofit organization, you might say that you need access, and this is on the right-hand column. What do I need? I need access to financing. I need more donors. Perhaps I need introductions to certain people in the community. I need a grant, and I'm trying to grow my grant area. I don't know a grant writer that I can mentor with. I am looking for a specific networking opportunity or social connection. Most organizations and individuals, interestingly, need the same thing. If you look on the left-hand side, what can I give? You can give access to the supporters in your organization. You may not be giving your whole donor list. I wouldn't suggest it, and you wouldn't do well with the people on your list if you did that. But if somebody needed a specific introduction, you might be able to introduce them to somebody on your list, make a phone call or an email introduction, and really help each other out. So what I'm saying is, in this economy, you're wanting to look to say, how can I help them so that they can help me? And I'll give you an example from me. So one of the areas of life that we work on in our event planning business is social parties. And most of our social parties are in the $5,000 budget range. But there are in Denver a number of socialites that I'd love to work with and that would be happy to do a party in the $50,000 to $100,000 range. We had one client who did a holiday party for Halloween for their 9-year-old son and spent $35,000. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but if people are out there spending it, I want a part of that. So I was looking in my community of people to say, I've given to the American Cancer Society before, and I know their event manager. Could they connect me with socialites there? So I am working on a deal with them right now to plan their holiday party. They only have $800 in their budget for their holiday party, so we're helping them plan the holiday party for free in exchange for them giving me access to several socialites. And we're going out to either lunch or to a networking event where I might meet some of these people that I would never have access to on my own. So it's you as a nonprofit. I think we oftentimes as nonprofits, and I started and spent 8 years nonprofit work, we start by saying we always need. We need this, we need money, we need resources, which is true. There is nothing wrong or incorrect about that. But if you look at it more from the relationships in your community, everyone is in need of something. What can I provide? And then in return, what can I ask for? They need a holiday. They want a holiday party for the staff, so the 40 people at the Denver office feel really, really good for all the work they've done this year. And I'm happy to do it because just doing one socialite party would pay for that party 10 times. So it's looking in that same way. How can I support so that I can be supported? So this is the time to grow relationships with your donors. It's a time to grow relationships with your sponsors. If you have sponsors that you've worked with during your event and you have your event once a year, maybe it's a ski race that you have in December, it's okay, it's appropriate, and it's important to call those sponsors 6 months out and say, you might be renewing your sponsorship with them, but at the same time, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Oh, I saw you at another event. Your banners looked awesome at that motocross event. I saw a motocross event last weekend, and I was literally just driving by on the highway, but I could see one of the sponsors we work with banner from the road. And I just called them up and said, that looked awesome. That was amazing. Good job. People love good job. And it helps them know that you're not just out there when you need that resource. So during downturns in the economy, people turn inward. They focus their energy on who they already know, and they focus their energy on who they already, that slide makes no sense, I'm sorry. Focus your energy on who you already know and who they already know to grow their business. So I remember now. So it's not just focusing on how do I grow my nonprofit organization, but it's saying how do I grow my nonprofit by helping Stephen, me, grow my event planning business. How can we do that together? So you could, if you wanted to start in a smaller area, perhaps you start with your board. Do they have influence to find new donors? What training can you provide specifically to find these donors? If you remind them of their relationship database, Jeff is going to give you a copy of these PowerPoint slides. Take a few of them, talk about them at your next board meeting and say, who do you know? Who do you know that needs help? Who do you know that might in the future, if we help them now, be able to help us in the future? It might be that they have, funny enough, businesses at the end of the year, sometimes they're trying to unload a few resources. They're trying to spend a little bit more money so that it will stay in their corporate budget for next year. Is there anybody that your board has talked to that is in that position and they're looking for a place to donate a little money? I'm sure all of you would be open to receiving money from an organization. Even though we're in a, in quotes, down economy, there are still organizations in that situation that have money to spend. They want to spend it and they want to get it out of their budget so that they can receive it again next year. You could ask your board, do they have affluence to give more themselves? Some organizations, and I was at a conference this past summer, they said our boards already give so much of their volunteer time. Should they give money? And I have said there are some organizations, I'm sure there are even ones on the phone that would say, yes, 100% of your board should be giving some amount of money to show their commitment to the board and the commitment to the organization. Other organizations say it's okay to give money, or you need to give an equivalent amount of time, and that might be a good position for you. But does your board have the influence to give more themselves? If they don't, maybe it's time to, if all your board positions aren't full, to add additional board members. And instead of looking for the people that might work hard, perhaps your goal is, your focus is, to find 1, 2, 3 more board members who have the affluence to give more to the organization. I was speaking to, again, the event manager at the American Cancer Society recently, and she spent, not full-time, but as a side task of hers over the last 4 months, about 10 hours a week, a specific, a certain amount of time a week on trying to find, invite, go to networkings, go to lunches with affluent business people that may join one of her boards, a specific socialite to head one of her committees, so that they can raise a larger amount of money. So you can, depending on the size of your organization, you could be doing that as well, just going out and really spending your time and energy looking for an affluent board member. I served on a board of a nonprofit that provided education to students in Brazil. And the first 4 board members we had were all worker bees, like me. I don't have a ton of money to give, but I am willing to work hard when I'm on a board. And then they got to a time where they didn't need the worker bees. They really just needed the cash. And we were able to add 2 additional board members who were both affluent, and they gave the largest donor donation of the year, and they were a new board member. But because they were inside the organization, they came to the regular board meetings, they saw what was going on, they were willing to dig a little bit deeper in their pockets. The next thing, keep people informed. You want to keep your stakeholders informed of what you're doing, what your organization is about, what's going on. And it might be that you're giving them just a little bit of information or a lot. I'm going to move along here because I realize that I'm going a little bit slow. But tips in any economy, tell a compelling story. You want to show pictures and tell stories in your marketing pieces. You want to get your donors and potential donors on site at an event. If you can have them come out to your event, hang out for half an hour, you could have a special VIP treatment to your top donors. They come out, they could do one of 2 things. You could have them come out and volunteer for the day and be on site, work with the people who are doing the sport activities, and that can be a lot of fun. Or you could do something else to show them that they're special to you. You could have them literally come for an hour of the event and then go do some sort of networking event, some sort of a, maybe it's off the ski hill, coffee with a little something extra in there. Maybe it's giving them dinner. Maybe it's whatnot. It doesn't have to be that they come to the whole event and you're really catering to them to the whole time. It might just be that you're doing one really special event with them for an hour where you're giving them real clear access to what their money is doing. You want them to come and see it, and then if they want to get involved, they could. And they could get involved in two different ways. Obviously, as a future volunteer, and then secondly, you're really looking for them to provide resources, funding to your organization. So social media, consider social media to create a long-tail approach. So long-tail approach is what Obama used to win the campaign. If some people would win, maybe the wrong word, but to raise a lot of money. So long-tail approach, the fundraising, is to say instead of going out and getting hundreds and hundreds of dollars of donations, I'm going to reach more people, and I'm going to reach them in an effective way. I'm going to have them provide a small amount of money over a long period, a small amount of money, and have a lot of people do that. I'm looking for Greenpeace is a slide I'll come to in a little while, and Greenpeace did that, going out door to door, raising money basically in the $10 and $20 range. Now they're a much larger organization, but they've raised they have 70,000 donors giving $10 to $20 a piece. So you imagine how quickly that would grow. There are two organizations that you might want to write down and look up their websites a little bit later. Life Rolls On is a Paralympic organization, it's a sport organization for people with disabilities, and they've done an excellent job. They do a lot of sailing, and they do other things around water. They have an excellent video online, and won an Emmy Award of a man in a wheelchair sitting at the edge of a pool, and it looks as if he's falling into the pool, and of course the pool is empty, and he spins around the bottom. It's had over 2 million hits online of people looking at this video. Really, really amazing. If you can't find the link, I'll email it to everyone later in whatever way Jeff can sort that out for me. Epic Change was another, used social media. They used Twitter to raise over $11,000 in 48 hours. They were, in this case, Epic Change, they were helping to build a classroom in Tanzania, but 90% of their donors had never donated to Epic Change before. They basically talked about their organization using Twitter on a regular basis. They grew a large following on Twitter, and then they started a campaign to raise a certain amount of money, and you could give any amount of money that you wanted. So they had a number of donors donate longer in that long-tail approach. They had a number of donors go out and donate small amounts of money to the organization in order to raise money for this classroom in Tanzania. So what could you do in your organization? Do you have a place on your website to accept a $10 donation? I'm going to give you some websites you could go that you could use if you don't have something for that right now. I'll give that to you in a few minutes. And I'm also offering a webinar on social media. We'll talk about that at the end as well. So when we were first going to do this event about a month ago, I asked a few of the people who had pre-registered if they had any good ideas of money that they're using. And April from the city of Reno, Nevada, came up with this great idea. They had a lot of equipment, adaptive equipment they've acquired over the years, and they started a rental program to generate additional revenue for their program. I thought that was a great idea, and congratulations to April for coming up with that great idea, or for the city of Reno to come up with that idea. Sorry, a small bit of water. Okay, good. So now on to the 5 tenets of fundraising. These are created and designed from what I've seen in the years I've worked in nonprofits and helped nonprofit organizations raise money. The first tenet, know what you want. So many organizations I've worked with say, I need money. And that's clear. You're a nonprofit organization. You do need money. But I wonder, how much money do you need? For what do you need that money? When will that money be used? For what program? How was that program done in the past? And if I had someone on the line right now that I could talk to, I would say, I would ask those same questions. They might say, I'm looking to buy new equipment. I'd say, great, what new equipment do you need? And they would say, I need sleds. Okay, great. How many sleds do you need? I need 4 sleds. Great. How much do those sleds cost? They're $2,200 a piece. Okay, good. So that sounds like you need to raise $8,800. When do you need that money by? Well, we were hoping to have them by December, or let's say January, giving a little more lead time. And have you raised any money already? Well, yes, we already have raised, and we have $2,000 from a grant that we got this summer that we need to spend before the first quarter of next year. Okay, good. So that gives me a lot more information than saying I need money. Most people don't really want to fund your organization as a whole. They really want to fund a program. They want to fund something that they saw. Maybe they came out to your event. They want to fund something that they've experienced themselves. So you want to give them options for funding the programs that mean the most to them, and then they can you can choose how that money is going to be spent from there. So another example here, be specific about what you want. We were building a new all-access ball field in Dover, Michigan for children with disabilities, which is breaking ground in the fall of 2010, or maybe now it's the spring of 2010. I wrote this a bit ago. We need $7,000 to finish the project and are looking for individual donors to get the project started. So when we talk about intent a little bit later on, we're going to talk about the way that you could go about that. So basically you're setting up for yourself, the intention is to raise $7,000 by the fall of 2010, or now we're saying the spring of 2010. And we're looking for individual donors in the amount of $500. It makes it a lot more specific. Knowing what you want, so just pull those people out, pull those pieces out, makes it a lot easier. When you're going out and you're talking to, whether it's your top donors, you're talking to all of your donors, you're talking to the Rotary Club or Kiwanis or Lions to share the information about your organization. I'm in a Rotary Club and have been for 6 years. I've seen a lot of people come through the door asking for money. And every time they come to ask for money, I wait until the end and I say, here, I've got a bit of coaching for you. Come back next time and say, I don't need money. What I need is I need $500 for this specific mission, for this specific project. And they come back to our club, and every single time so far that somebody's come back to our club, they've either been given a portion of or the whole amount they've asked for when they're in a small amount. You know, maybe you're saying I have a $70,000 project, but I need $500 from your organization. We've done our best to fund that. Why? People want to help you, but everybody, especially in this economy, somebody says, yeah, I need money too. So what's the difference? If you give them a really specific amount of money that you need, it can help out. In addition, just in general, if you've been in a marketing session of mine before, you would have heard me say something like, I want to market this particular event, and I would say the same set of criteria, so that you're getting a little bit more specific about exactly what you need. So the second step in the 5 areas is have a clear and compelling message. So you're refining your message from what you said you needed before. You need X amount of dollars, and you're going out and you're looking for a specific thing that you need. Now, I know as nonprofit organizations, you likely need money in 6, 8, 10 different areas, and that's fine. But to say, I need money for these 10 different programs, if you say that to an individual donor or to an organization, they likely, unless you're giving them a menu and they can choose, if you give a menu and they can choose, that might work. But if you go to say, these are all the things I have and I want you to fund all of them, most people will say no. So I come up with 6, 8, 10 things I need, and then each time I go to a different organization, I ask for a different thing. Maybe I'm going to Rotary Club on Tuesday and another one on Thursday. On Tuesday, I ask about the adaptive equipment, and then Thursday, I ask about the ball field. If you find that one's easier to sell and quote sell to people, sell that one next. So you want to differentiate yourself from other organizations. You may be the only adaptive sport program in the area, and so for you, it may be really easy to differentiate yourself from other sport programs of able-bodied folks in your town. But if there are a number of them, a number of disabled sport programs in your area, you want to differentiate yourself. Find your best stories and cultivate them. you might have seen that Kirk Bauer, the executive director of DSUSA, on a dare was encouraged to go to Kilimanjaro. And three of the I've just lost my train of thought, sorry. 3 people go and hike Kilimanjaro. They make that a story. Those 3 people were all veterans. That was the word I was looking for, all veterans going out. 3 people, 1 good leg among them, and they blast that out to the U.S. and they get a lot of hits online. This story made national news. So find your best stories and cultivate them. Sometimes as organizers of events, you can see the passion of it, and it's hard to maybe connect on a specific story or a specific example that's going to move a donor. So one way that I suggest is to use a testimonial to create the story that you're going to share. Ask a specific member that's taken on a sport activity if they can provide a testimonial. And they create that, from that testimonial, you turn that into a story and you add 3, 4, 5 pictures from your event. You can differentiate yourself from other organizations in this way. Creating some sort of an online presence today, I mentioned it in social media, is really important. It's really, photos are great, videos are 10 times and as much as 500% more effective than still photos. So you might say, well, I don't have a video player. I know there are a ton of video players out there. I've seen them, some phones even offer that service. But if you're in a low, if you have a low budget, one good one is the Flip video player. Just looked online this morning and I found it for $150 for the 4 gig and $200 for the 8 gig. 2 hours of video. You can bring it out to your event, and then it literally has a USB connector, and you can pop it literally right up to YouTube, and then host that video on YouTube and put it online on your website. These videos are going to create more awareness of your organization than the still photos. It just shows such a picture when you have a person out there doing a sport activity, and it will create more people coming back to your website, looking at it if they find the video online. In the social media webinar I lead, the first most searchable website is Google. That's where people spend the most amount of time. But their second website is YouTube. People are going to videos to find things out about what they want to see. They want to watch a quick video. They don't want to read, so they're going to watch a quick video and see what your organization is doing, and then you put a link back to your website requesting a donation. So another good idea, Joe Dole from the Mid-America Games, when I asked again for ideas, he made a video presentation using still photos of the event and live video that he shows when he speaks to a group. And I thought that was a great way to go about getting something created. Joe mentioned that, you know, his funding, I think he's a one-man show, and so he needed something to take to the group, and instead of going out and spending more money than his budget allowed, he was able to create something from home, as I understood it. So good job to Joe. You want to fundraise like a sales organization is the third tip. And fundraising is to say, in a sales organization, they're amazing marketers. The most important thing is marketing, even before they have programs out there. I was taught into a sales organization and received training from them to sell something even before it's available. You could sell a fundraising event even before it's available in that way. You can be an amazing marketer to market the different programs that you have. You might consider a direct mail campaign for a short amount for a focus group of your donors and try it out. Have you ever tried that before? If you haven't, maybe you try it with a small group. You just take that small bit and you try it out and see. Have easy access to changing your website. In our personal business website, we have our business website, and we're having a hard time getting rankings. And I've helped other nonprofit organizations with this now. Basically, we have a Facebook fan page. And our Facebook fan page, we update that between 2 and 5 times a week, depending on how busy my business partner does that part. So she updates 2 to 5 times a week. And we have the Facebook fan page. Basically, you can increase your rankings on a website by having more changes to your website more regularly. So we embedded the Facebook fan page on the front page of our business website. And we've moved up in Google rankings to the front or the second page. We've never been that high on Google rankings before, simply because 2 to 5 times a week we're making changes on our Facebook fan page. It's connected to our business website, and on the website it gives options for ways for people to connect with us. So you want to look to say, how can you have easy access to change your own website? Maybe you're in a large organization where you can't do that, but what can you do on a regular basis to quickly change your website, and then what kind of fundraising options can you give there? Going back to the idea of being really clear with your compelling message, you could say, do you want to help us buy sleds for our winter program? Donate $500 here. Maybe you need uniforms for your players, and those are $500. People can donate 10% of that, $50 here. And you have those right online on the front page of your web. Funding like a sales organization is to say, how can I make the sale, the opportunity, really easily available to my donors and to people who are interested in what I'm offering? Think direct marketing. So I've been approached, and I'm sure you all have as well, by a direct marketing company, an Amway or a Tupperware, or I'm sure there are hundreds more out there. I've even had businesses in a couple of those organizations before, and maybe you do as well. But in direct marketing, they train everyone is a potential sale. You could be talking to anybody at any time about anything and turn it into talking about your organization and talking about how they might donate or might participate in your organization. So while this webinar is about funding, you could also be talking about how you could be getting people on to volunteer for your organization, how you might want to fill a board position, how you're looking for a new idea for an event. And then having easy access to your database so that you can send out regular notices to your group. Some people use something like a constant contact. I know there are a number of different webinar services out there, or different email newsletter services. If you don't have one already that you like, I suggest vertical response, because vertical response allows you to pay per email sent. If you're not sending emails very often, less than once a month, you'll save money every month by using vertical response, where you pay 500 emails in your database. You send out an email once every 2 months. You'll just pay when you actually hit the send button, which helps out. So fundraising like a sales organization is to say, I am going to look at each thing I'm wanting to sell, and I'm going to develop some sort of a plan for how I'm going to market that thing. Am I going to create a 1 or 2 page website? Am I going to have a separate flyer? Am I going to invite people to a networking event? You're going to develop some sort of a strategy for that particular market. Perhaps the market that you're trying to hit is families, the parents of the children who are in your wheelchair basketball program. And your strategy is you're going to target them when they come to practice. You're going to invite them to an after-dinner program. And they can come every week or just once. You try it out one time in a season, and you say, that's where you're testing the market. Is that going to work for me? So you invite them to this thing, and you say, we need volunteers, we need donors, we need board members, we need X, Y, and Z. How can you help us fill those roles? And it might be that the parents aren't helping you, but who do they know? Again, going back to the relationship database concept and idea, who do they know that can help? So I have just put an example down here, but just to give some space on timing, I'm going to skip the example since I gave you a different one. It's important to diversify your revenue. So some of you may do sponsorships. Some of you may do grant writing. It's important to pick 2, 3, 4 things, and I learned that a number of times when I worked for Up With People. It was my first nonprofit experience for 5 years. We lost in 1 year a whole bunch of sponsorship funding, and we didn't have a big backup for the next kind of donor that we might need. And we ended up needing to, in an emergency situation, go to individual donors and basically beg for the individual donor needs that we had. And in 1 year, they were able to raise, and it was a large organization, $100 million organization, they were able to raise $10 million through individual donors in their donor database, but it wasn't pretty. If you can diversify your revenue, that they're coming in from more sources, you're better off. I know as an example, sponsorship revenues are down in this economy between 30 and 60% depending on the market. So if they're focusing only on sponsorship revenue, you may be a little bit in trouble if you can't get that sponsorship renewal next year. Last, relationships win. I've talked a lot about that. You want to create some sort of a campaign for yourself for being in touch with your donors on a regular or semi-regular basis. You want to keep your board members and donors informed of what is coming next, and you want your board members to be involved in events or day-to-day operations. We did a fundraiser for a foundation, a college foundation, a few weeks ago, and we've been working on this project for 12 months in our organization. The board members, there are only 2 board members on the event committee, the rest were volunteers, but on the day of the event, all except for 2, so 15 of their 17 board members came out and were on site helping, volunteering, and being around. And it gave them, even though it was a first-year event, even though they will only make a certain amount, somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 revenue in their first year, it gives the ground for going back to those board members and saying, didn't you have a great time? Didn't you see what great work we were doing? Aren't you ready to support that again? And in the first year, when they didn't have anything to see, they weren't. It took a lot to convince them that it might be a good idea to do a big community event. All the other kinds of events they'd always done for fundraisers were 150 or 200 people lunches. And at this fundraising festival, it was a community chalk art festival, we had about 2,000 people there in our first year. So did we affect or share more about the foundation to the 2,000 people than they have in the past with their 200? Yes, of course we did. And they were able to increase their database by offering marketing incentive on site for people to sign up and to receive, it was $250 in movie gift certificates that we'd gotten in a sponsorship exchange. So we added a lot of names to their database, which then they can market to, looking for future funding. So I wanted to just talk about your donors for a second. I know that you're maybe aware of a little bit about your individual donors, but donors overall, they want to know that you're doing the most effective job that you possibly can with the money that they give you. They want to know that their gifts are really reaching the people, not going to the administrative expenses, even though you do have administrative expenses to take care of. But they want to be impacting your organization. They want to know that that whatever they provide is going to be valuable. And most important, probably, they want to know the results. So you can say at the beginning in developing your campaign, I'm going to ask for money in the beginning. I'm going to show them pictures of the event. I'm going to do that through my newsletter. And then in the end, I'm going to send them a follow-up newsletter, a follow-up email, a follow-up personal call, depending on how you're connecting with your database, to say, or a follow-up thank you note to say how your donation of $500 specifically supported my event was X, Y, and Z. It bought bibs, it bought poles, it bought equipment. It paid for 5 team members to join a team that couldn't have come on their own. So just going back to the question about economy, is it okay to say the economy is bad? No, you shouldn't be saying in your marketing the economy is bad. People already know that. You can tell your staff and potentially depending on your board, your financial woes. But your donor, it's about getting them excited about what works. What programs do you have? What's happening in your organization? What's growing? What impact are they specifically making by the money that they're providing? If you tell people about the economy is bad and that's why you need money, donors are discouraged. They fear your programs might be cut or they might be limited, that you're not providing the same services that you did in the past. You're reminding them specifically of their financial woes. And if they remember that they don't have enough money to do their special thing, then they may be less inclined to give you money for your special event, special program, or whatnot. So you want to look and say, you can say to yourself, boy, the economy is really hurting my organization right now. But you want to go out to your donors and say, here's a way that you can help. Here's a program I'm really excited about. Here's a new thing that I'm doing that I haven't done before. Sorry, it's dry in Colorado, a little more water. So I talked about Greenpeace before. It's important to study other successful organizations and, in quotes, copy what they do. I have even in putting this presentation together, even though I had a specific amount of experience and background in this area, I read 2 books. I studied a number of things on the internet. I went to other organizations to look and see what they were doing. I talked to people in my relationship database, several nonprofits, to say, what are you dealing with specifically right now? So one of the stories I found was Greenpeace. Why I said that is I encourage you to talk to other nonprofits in your community. Maybe there's some connection between Paralympic Sport Organization or Blazesports that can provide that. Perhaps it's something through individual organization to say, maybe you invite through meetup.com to invite 10 nonprofit organizations to come to a lunch together. And you really talk about what are the big challenges and what are the opportunities. And the 2 people that gave us ideas from Reno and then Joe gave us ideas today for this presentation, you can find ideas for yourself as well. So anyway, I went back to Greenpeace and I said, how is their funding structure set up? They have a network of field organizers, volunteers, and students that go out and get those $10 and $20 donations. Some places that you could use if you're needing to grab donations from your website and you don't have access to doing that already, Eventbrite.com. You can go on there and using a PayPal account, you can collect donations for a nonprofit. Eventbrite is EVENTBRITE. You can do it through a Facebook fan page now. You can click a button on there to say donate. There's another company called Wild Apricot. And if you have a membership base in your organization, you have members that are joining and paying a regular fee, Wild Apricot specifically for nonprofit organizations to build membership websites. And they've got a great blog as well. I read their blog often to find new ideas. I've already talked about Greenpeace. I'm going to go on a bit. So I talked to in the beginning, I said one of the things I wanted to make sure to cover was the difference between intent and strategy. So oftentimes in nonprofits, and this is true also for me as a for-profit organization, is that I say I want to achieve X in my organization, and then I go out and I try to achieve that thing, and sometimes that thing doesn't work. So an example that I gave here, the intention, raise $10,000. The strategy is 2 different ways that I could potentially raise that $10,000. One, I could do a direct mail campaign. I could ask 100 people for $100. I could do an ask campaign. I could invite 10 top executives to lunch, and I could ask each of those top executives for $1,000. And there's a whole slew of information. I could talk for an hour just about ask campaigns. But instead of saying, what happens a lot of times, I think, for organizations is they say, I'm going to focus on the strategy called direct mail campaign, and I'm going to send out 500 postcards, and I'm going to hopefully bring back, let's say, $10,000. And then they only get $400, and then they're left a little bit in the dry. They don't have the money that they need. So my encouragement to you is to create some intentions around your fundraising strategy. My intention is to raise $10,000, and then talk amongst your volunteers, your board, your organization, your development staff, whoever it is, depending on the size of the organization, to say, well, what are ways that we can do that? Let's brainstorm 5 different strategies we could try in order to raise that $10,000 we want. Put 1 of those in place, or put 2 of those in place, and then know that one of those strategies may work beautifully and the other may work not well at all. But the original intent is to raise $10,000. So I know I'm not done with this campaign. I know I'm not done with this intention, until $10,000 has been raised. You put one thing out there, direct mail campaign, then you put another thing out there, perhaps it's an ask campaign, then you put a third thing out there, donations on your website, all in an effort to raise that $10,000. A second one, just as an example, grow my database by 500 names. Perhaps you do a social media campaign to raise the awareness. You start a Facebook fan page. You canvass your neighborhood for local interest. You invite parents to each give, and there are 10 kids on your team. You invite each of them to give you 10 names, and from those 10 names, you invite them to give you 10. So you can see here, I have an intention called Grow Database by 500 Names. And then inside of that, I have a strategy. What then that happens is that you know that if your 5 intentions get completed, then your program is complete. If some of your strategies fail, which some will fail, it's just how life goes, that you still have other things in place. This strategy was taken from a book I'm going to give you, Mal Warwick, who wrote How to Write Fundraising When Money is Tight. It's one of the books that I read in preparation for this particular webinar. And he has a strategy which is in the back of the book. I'd recommend that you read that book. It's a great one. So he's saying if you have an intention to raise $50,000, maybe that's too big for your organization, maybe it's too small, I'm not sure. You'd look to say, well, what's the strategy that I'm going to go for in order to raise that amount of money? So in early November I'm going to send out an email announcement to all my donors. We're coming up, we're hoping to raise $50,000, or not hoping, sorry, we're raising $50,000 for X, Y, and Z. We have a goal of doing this by January 1st. Then mid-November, you're sending out a mailing, then a telephone, then email follow-up, second mailing, all along the way. Basically in each way saying the high-value donors, again, your top 20% is a highly personalized invitation to donate a certain amount of money. Then you look to your active donors and say, I'm going to do a bit more of a generic appeal. And then perhaps to your lapsed donors, you're going to go to a generic reactivation. Let's get re-involved. Here's a way to do it. You could give a $10 donation. We're looking for, this program to get handled. We're looking for these new sleds to be purchased, this new equipment, this new team to come online. And you give them all of these opportunities. So as I wrap it up, I know I'm a few minutes over. My apologies to you for that. I wanted to give you a couple of resources that I thought would be helpful to you. Excuse me. As I mentioned, Mal Warwick, he's written a number of books, 14 I think in all around fundraising. He's been in fundraising for 30 years. How to write successful fundraising letters. You can see all those are on the left. And then interestingly enough, as I said, I do research all the time, and I was reading the Entrepreneur magazine. I ripped this out. I'm not even sure it was an advertisement in the back, and it was guerrilla marketing for nonprofits, 250 tactics to promote, recruit, motivate, and raise more money. And I've read guerrilla marketing, and that's for business, and now they've come out for a nonprofit version with 150 tips, 150 rules, or excuse me, 250 to help you, and I would recommend there. So as this wraps up today, I hopefully I've given you a few tips, ideas, tricks that will make your organization shine. I'd highly encourage you to write down a few things that you learned today. 2 actions I can take this month, and 1 action I can do today. I've been on enough training myself to know if you're not taking immediate action, 1 action you can do between now and the time you go home tonight. There's a very good chance you'll show up to work tomorrow. There'll be a large pile of things for you to do, and this will be a thing of the past. So I encourage you, before you leave, and I know you're doing the survey, all of that, 3 things at least that I learned today. 2 actions I can take this month, and 1 action I can take today that's going to change and increase my funding for my organization. And then I wanted to appreciate and thank the Paralympics and Blazesports for allowing me to just talk quickly about 2 other webinars that I'm doing, actually a few other webinars I'm doing. If you write down the website, eventplannerstraining.com. I've offered sponsorship training at the Paralympics program in the spring, but it's just not enough time to really cover sponsorship in detail. So I worked with a recent client and helped them make $17,000 in a first-year event using this sponsorship packaging and sales process. Basically, we'll spend 3 hours and 45 minutes on the phone together, over the course of these 3 different dates, putting together your sponsorship package and getting it ready, improving it and the quality of it. If you don't make at least double, I would say, if you actually do the work, you put it together, and you don't make at least double that amount of money, $400 in sponsorship in the next 6 months, I'd be happy to come back and refund your money. I believe it that strongly that I know that if you do the work and you go out and you talk to your donors, you talk to your sponsors, you'll raise more money for your organization. There are a couple others that I have, developing strategic partnerships. We'll talk a lot more about developing your partnership database, which is what I started with today. I have another one on social media basics and also on Facebook strategies. So, if it's a good fit for you, I'd love for you to come and do other training with me. I think I'm at the end of my time. I know that there are some other opportunities. Thank you again to Jeff. He's been great to help me get things ready and started and online. And also, if you have additional questions, you can contact Susan with the U.S. Paralympics and help out in that way. I believe now it's time to turn to questions. And Jeff, can you help me along with how this process goes?
Yes, this is the time to type in your questions. We have a couple already in the queue, so we can jump right into those. Actually, we had a couple, because you're buzzing through it really quick, a couple people asked.
Sorry about that.
About the references, specifically the book and the and different things. So my answer to that, I guess, and which hopefully you'll agree, is that you'll send me a quick little summary of the things that you referenced, the book titles and stuff, and besides the ones that are listed. Obviously, you have the ones that are listed, but there was one listed that you talked about earlier in the 80 on 20 section. You listed a book title then.
Life's Golden Ticket. And that's Brendan Bouchard. He also runs a sponsorship seminar. I took his sponsorship seminar, but his was $4,000. You could go, it's an amazing seminar. But if you're looking for a different one, I have that I provide as well.
Okay. Okay, here a question we have is, can you ask a donor too many times for a contribution?
You can ask a donor too many times in too short a period of time. I personally believe that to be true. You want to look and say, I'm going to set up some sort of a strategy for being in communication with my donor, and I'm going to ask. It might be that you have 5 events during the course of the year that you could, in theory, ask a donor for, and it might be better to say to your donor at the beginning of the year, the beginning of a period of time, you know what, let's say his name is John. John, I love, I appreciate you, I love you, I think you, have done great for my organization. I wanted to let you know early on that I have 5 different opportunities during the year, and instead of hitting you up for all 5 of those, I wondered if we couldn't come up with some sort of an agreement for you supporting all 5 of those events or a portion of those events. I did that in the past with a donor, and he upped his donor amount from, he had been doing $2,500 for one event we were doing and $1,000 for another. And we brought it, and he said, well, wow, if you have all these events, I've always enjoyed your organization. Let me do $5,000 the first year. And we split it up amongst 3 of the 5 events. And then when I went back the next year, and I did great follow-up to say after each event, here's what your money went to. Here's how your money impacted my organization. And when I went back to him the second year, he said, that was the best follow-up I've ever received. It was a new organization I worked for, and he gave $10,000. He literally doubled his contribution after the year because I gave him the follow-up throughout the year, but instead of asking him 5 times, I just asked him once. I know that's a longer question. I think it's important to build a relationship. If you know you need to ask somebody a whole bunch of times, just make sure you follow up with them for other things like their birthday and a card here and there.
Okay, this one might be a long answer too, but is there a difference between the ask for an endowment versus practical program costs?
the short answer is yes, and the long answer is I'll probably need to get back. Jeff, could I research that one a little bit better and send a reply to people in a by Friday or something?
Yeah.
Is there a way to do that? Okay. So for whoever asks the question, I'd love to answer it, but I want to be, I want to be smart about answering it in a good way.
Okay. And the other kind of similar question, is it easier to raise money for existing programs or a new program that doesn't exist and only will exist if you raise the money?
So the question is it easier to raise money for an existing program or a new program that will only exist if you're raising money?
Right.
Boy, it's a tough one. People are visual, so they like to know what their money is going towards. If you can be clear about what, I don't know that one is easier than the other would be the short answer. If you're building for, typically building for an existing program is easier because you can say, this is this program, this is what it provides, this is how many people it impacts, these are the kind of people it impacts. Here, let me show you a couple pictures. Here's a video. That you get the point. Whereas a new program, you're really having to say, here's what I think might be done if I get this money. And if they understand, the other piece to say is, how long is it going to take? Say you need $20,000 to start the program and you're asking for $1,000, then the question is, if people understand the scope of what that new program is, it's how long would you need to have before you're going to raise the full amount. And I can think of two different things I've worked on where two different total things happened. One was we were raising money for a grant for a school getting additional stuff for their school, and they said, we're going for a grant. We need $20,000 for the grant from personal donors, and then we're going to go to get the $20,000 matching funds for the grant. But we don't know. The grant is very competitive. So we need you to say that you have interest in giving the money if we get the grant. And we had donors sign letters of agreement. If we get the grant, we'll give over the money. Unfortunately, we did not get the grant. People kept their money. So that's like one way to go about it is I'm going to ask people for money, and then once I have a group of people all willing to give money at the same time, I'm going to give. And it only works because really the money could only be used for that particular thing. Other option, an organization raising money for a new thing related to, it doesn't matter for this at all. So anyways, they're raising money for something. And they went out and they said, we need to raise $100,000. Can you donate now, knowing that this thing won't come to fruition for 2 years? But they had a 2-year market line, and they kept raising money. And it was easier at the end of that 2-year process to get that last bit of money that they needed because they had a definite deadline, and they also had all these other supporters who'd already given money. At the end, in the last 6 months, they went back to all the people that donated money and said, we're not here yet. Who else do you know that might be interested in donating money? So I know I answered a little bit different of a question. I don't think it's harder except for the part where you don't have something to show people. So you have to be really specific about when you will be able to show them what their money went to.
Okay, that is it right now. Folks, if you have additional questions that might come up between now and when you're doing the survey, you have an opportunity in the survey to put a question. All questions will be relayed on to Stephen for response, and we'll send that out to everybody. Again, on behalf of U.S. Paralympics and Blazesports America, I want to thank Stephen Stokes for being with us today and a great presentation.
Thank you. Enjoyed it, and good luck to you all.
Okay, that ends our webinar for today. And again, those able to stay right on, you're going to get our survey immediately, and we appreciate you filling it out. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great afternoon.